So now they actually get you in addition to all the other people, that come. So I won't go too much into it because you're all familiar with her, but she's the Associate Professor and Early Childhood Program Leader in the Department of Teaching and Learning here at FIU's College of Education. She's a founding member of the Quality Enhancement Plan. That's what we do. She's been involved with Project Zero Ideas at Harvard Graduate School of Education since 1998. Her long-standing partnership with Project Zero has evolved into numerous research initiatives and professional development opportunities. In her courses, she draws upon teaching for understanding framework and the visual thinking approach and habits of minds. She pioneered and is pioneering Design for Change Global Learning Initiative, which is also along with Project Zero. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Dr. Angela.
Many people from different businesses and companies, they are now, what they care more about the people is about their emotional intelligence more than if they are knowledgeable about things, because emotional intelligence is what makes people be in their feet, in their shoes. So, well, just a little background about Daniel Goleman. So he's very respected in many areas in education, psychology, and in the business world. So at this point, I want to invite you to, before I have a question, how many of you had read this article before coming here? Okay, so maybe let's take a few minutes to read the article. And as you read the article, I want you to highlight a word that means that carry an important message from the article. And I want you to highlight a phrase that also struck you and caught your attention, and a sentence that tells you a lot about this article. So a word, a sentence, and a phrase. And as soon as you finish reading and going through this, just make me a little sign so I can taste how many people are ready to start our discussion today. I would like to hear a word that better describe your thoughts or your feelings as you read this article. Mm-hmm.
Empathy.
Empathy? Mm-hmm. Why did it call your empathy?
Because, how they're saying in today's society doesn't really think about anyone else besides themselves, and people are selfish, so I don't know.
It's about feeling.
Yeah, feelings.
Someone else's shoes. Another word?
Power,
Power. Why?
because the article was discussing like people with power and people who are powerless, like their social interactions and how people with power are more likely to only communicate with people of their own status rather than looking out like elsewhere.
Mm-hmm. So power, people with power and powerless, Katia, and then here.
Sure, I actually picked a phrase, readily dismissing inconvenient people seemed like pretty much the core of the problem when there are these power imbalances.
Mm-hmm. Power imbalances, you find here?
Yes, I was thinking for material assets versus social assets.
Material assets versus social assets. Why did it call your attention?
Basically because it was pointed out that those who need to depend more on their social assets depend on things such as being in a neighborhood that they know is safe for their kids, that others will watch for their kids as well. That was an example that was used, as opposed to someone with material assets could hire help, could hire a nanny to wait at the bus stop and walk their child home or a bus station.
And we see that there is an interaction. Is that what you say? There's an interaction between the people who have more and people who have less, right?
Yes.
Okay. Another word that's for your attention. What about a phrase? Well, we already started with one phrase here. A phrase that.
The social distance between those with great power and those with less.
Social distance. We're talking about social distance, and you see social distance, and here the interdependence between the two groups of people.
The more powerful were less compassionate.
The more powerful, the less compassionate. Why did it call your attention?
Because it is true, like I've experienced sometimes when people have more power and have like a higher career, they don't have as much compassion or as much empathy as people who are like at a lower job.
Someone else?
We focus the most on those we value most.
Why did you choose that?
Because I noticed that a lot of things that people do what they value the most, that's what they spend most of their attention and their time on, rather than other things that they don't particularly value more.
So we have the value, what people in certain status value more and what other people value. There's a lot of different perspectives and so forth. Any additional phrase? Here, I see you.
I just thought this was kind of funny. I fear the expansion of an entirely different gap caused by the inability to see one's self in a less advantaged person's shoes.
Mm-hmm.
As if that's a new problem going on.
Okay. Tell me
People
more.
are developing this new disorder where we can't put ourselves in the shoe of somebody less fortunate because we are so fortunate.
Mm-hmm. So you are seeing things that are happening around the world. Is that what you mean? That things are happening in the world and we are in our shoes, we don't see other things?
Yeah, there's a wall dividing our view of our everyday lives
Mm-hmm.
and those of people in third world countries. We don't really understand what's going on.
Okay.
And in our own nation as well.
Yeah, okay, and I think this is very interesting, and I would like to put this on hold because I would like to see this from a world perspective. We're now just focusing on this message, but this is very important. Maybe we can analyze things that are happening around the world, the recent things in Venezuela, for example. So let's put this on hold because I think this brings us to a good discussion about this and how we can see from our perspective being here and things that are happening around the world. Any other phrase? What about a sentence that call your attention and really impact your thoughts and put your thinking?
Recent research shows that people with the most social power pay scant attention to those with little power.
Mm-hmm. So why did you choose that?
I choose that because you see it every day, especially, I work at the airport, and I notice the difference between TSA and private security. So you see the difference that TSA automatically assumes because they're the TSA and they're government security, and they think they're better than us. When sometimes I actually know more than they know, and I know more of the rules than TSA knows. So.
Okay, thank you. Mm-hmm.
Poor people are better attuned to interpersonal relations with those of the same strata, and the more powerful than the rich are because they have to be.
Poor people has more ability to relate with other
More
people
social interaction.
for social interaction. What do you think that the author is telling us these things?
Well, because they have to be. I mean, like, that's their way of living. Like, it's, I know you, you know me, we're helping each other out. The rich don't have to worry about that. Like, it's taken care of. Money will take care of it. Or where, like it was saying, like, it's watching over your child when they come from school so you're able to make it home from work. Like, it's a you have to build a community to be able to survive.
Have to build a community and you feel the need. So I just posted this image. And maybe this can make us think about why do we care about this? Why should we care about this?
There is literally a margin separating two classes, and it's almost like a wall. You can see on this side, for example, it's much nicer. Green courts and a pool. On this side, you have like little sports, and very close to the rich area. We should care about like how we perceive this image. Really, it's split in half, literally.
Yeah, but this is a real image. It's not photoshopped.
Yeah, I know. But it's literally a wall separating two classes, preventing interaction.
Yeah, and before I put this image, I noticed that some of you were talking about a wall, an imaginary wall between two worlds. The people who have more, or the rich people, or the people who have less. Right? That was what I heard. What else can we say? Why we should matter? This should matter to us personally. Mm-hmm.
Well, it seems like part of why it matters is that, well, self-evidently, it's a problem when people go through hardship because they don't have enough money.
Mm-hmm.
What this, approach seems to be trying to argue is that it's self-reinforcing. Once there are people who have more than everybody else, they're going to be callous towards those people and continue to prioritize their own well-being, particularly financially, over others.
Mm-hmm.
Like this approach is basically saying it will, like once this starts going, once we have these inequities,
Mm-hmm.
they'll be accelerated by the attitude, the sort of like false validation, being rich in a society provides.
Mhm. Yeah, and I will always ask myself, okay, if what are the values about this, about things that are happening to the people who are in upper scale, what's going on with them? So maybe the next question should be, why should this matter to us as a community?
Because as a community, we can't all function as a whole, and there's all these striations and divisions within the society. Eventually, the people who have less or get the short end of the stick, they're gonna try to find a way, by force or otherwise, to reclaim some sort of power so they can, have an effect on what happens around them.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that this affects everybody? Is that what you mean?
Definitely.
Well, let's start thinking from our personal perspectives. How do you feel affected by things like this? And then let's move to our global perspective.
Well, I think in a sense, an aspect of community, the majority of the community is middle class. Okay, so in that aspect alone, as she was saying, we have to build a community that we're comfortable with.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to work together to do that, as opposed to turning a blind eye.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea that I'm building here is basically that in order to progress, we must work together and not build that fourth wall.
Yeah, and actually, your contributions, you contribute in two ways. First, you talk about the wall. Then you highlighted that phrase that you were saying, that the two groups, actually, they are interdependent because of need. And right now, you're talking about a community, and that most of us are middle-class people. So maybe we're not here. So where are you? And what can we do to be engaged and break all these big gaps that we have here? Mm-hmm.
Well, in all fairness, there needs to be a reduction of the need for the rich to isolate themselves. Because as everyone has seen several times before, someone hits their lottery and suddenly all of their friends and family want things from them. And people are after them for their money. So they feel the need to isolate themselves. They move to a different neighborhood with a nice gate to protect them. And they try to stay as far away from people as possible because they need to preserve what they have. If they could just exist among the regular people without being, begged upon or called upon to help them and seen as a gateway to success, then they could probably still stay within the regular confines of society rather than seem to isolate themselves.
Maybe you can make a connection with what you already observed here, in connection to the image. Sleeping, but with the image, you were talking about a real wall, and now you are talking about people who are confined in their houses with big gates that separate and isolate them from the other world. But when you are,
Well, I think the problem he described is real, in as much as the rich people do want to isolate themselves, but they do worse than that. we've seen throughout history the lengths to which people are willing to go to protect a privileged place in a society. And so you start to have to wonder, not is the solution, can we somehow build this community that's more integrated, that is going to be less likely to demand things of the rich, and start thinking about, is it safe to have these kind of inequities around? Because people will abuse them.
This is a great contribution where you say, is it safe to have this? How would you
Not for
feel?
the rich, but it's not safe because people will be put in that poverty.
So well, maybe that makes us think, how would you feel if you are in this neighborhood or in this neighborhood? How would you feel? Let's think from any perspective.
Those people should want to eat those people. Like, that's obscene.
Okay, and what she says, but at the same time, well, these people will provide jobs to these people because they need them. Yeah, but what is the perspective of this group? And that's the title is that the rich people care less. And you just said something. It's what was the term that you just used? It's obscene.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts if you are in this neighborhood?
You mean the right side?
In the one
Yeah,
with the
well,
pools?
there could be two sides. There could be one side that maybe they aren't aware of the other side, because they're always used to being in their surroundings, so they're not aware of, the other side of town. That can happen. Or they just don't care. Two sides.
And actually, you began sharing your work with empathy. Maybe something, is that what you mean, that these people don't?
No, maybe the people on this side, since they're so used to living in that life, they're not even aware of the people next door to them. It's like not even.
Unless they feel the need
Yes.
of
To
services.
go out and see what's around them.
A nanny or a maid or someone who can
Yeah.
do things for them.
But I'm pretty sure you can see that. Like, if I'm on this side and the buildings are going up, which means higher, that's how I'm looking at it, and the other side is lower beneath us, I can see what's over that wall. Like, I can see that. If I'm on the last floor, I know that. So I'm very aware of what's going on this side. As far as them being lower, I'm pretty sure they know that it's more on the opposite side. But, I mean, you can't too much see it that much over the wall because you are lower. But I'm pretty sure these people can see that.
Okay, so you see, interesting. Your perspective is okay. Just the physical location. These people here, they are not in big buildings, and they are covered by a wall, so they don't see all these things. But these other people, they are very high, and they can see those things, the things that are happening here. And
I was just gonna say like how if they can look down and they see that, like why don't they feel the need to maybe want to help them? I guess that goes back to the whole they don't care. Because every day you get home from work or wherever they're coming from, and they look down and they see that, and how does that not make them feel bad or at least want to do something?
great question. Why do these people don't want to help the other? Brittany and
Okay. Maybe not in the sense of feel bad. I mean, you probably do have some people over there who does feel bad and they want to help. But it sometimes, as these two girls said about the community and working together, one person can make a difference, but it would be so much more better if it was more than one. And that job will probably actually get done. But then you'll have some people who will probably look at her, like me, for example, just an example. If she wanted to help, and I'm looking at her like, really, you want to help those people? You really want to go down there? Like, you have some people that think like that. And then on the other hand, some people may think, well, I have 24 hours of the day, so do you. So how come I'm here and you're there? If I'm doing this, it's a possibility that you can be doing the same thing. So sometimes they may not even feel bad because if you have 24 hours and I have 24 hours in a day, why can't you do what I done?
So how would you summarize that with one word?
Some people like to give back than the others.
But some rich people think they earned it.
Yeah.
It's not that the fact that they did not earn it, because they work hard for it, Sometimes they just to be blindsided of how greedy and possessive of material things that they can and to overlook.
Well, that goes back to what I said about earning. If I feel as though I've earned it and I worked hard, like the gym, if I'm going to the gym every day and my body is different than yours and you're at the gym as well, then maybe you should try to do what I'm doing, you know, to make your body look at least close to mine.
I think that the rich can provide jobs. That's what they can offer us in rich people. Their perspective on the environments and societies around them is absolutely their choice. Whether they worked hard for what they got, or whether they're hedge fund babies, whatever it be, that is their choice to decide what they want about society. Those who are less fortunate need to take advantage, need to take initiative first of all, because they're the ones in the less fortunate position. It is not their job to depend, to wait on achieving equality in the eyes of those who are more fortunate, because that may not come. They need to take initiative at the moment and use what they have and what they can do. Take the jobs that the rich are offering, because those are the outlets that they are providing for you. Their perspective is something else entirely, and it should not set anyone back. Everyone should be motivated in themselves, not motivated because of someone else, or because of someone else's acceptance towards them. You strive because you have drive, not because someone else prohibits you because they don't believe in you.
Okay,
Ms. Henry?
let's go. You, Marie, and Britt.
Now, at least in this country, a large portion, if not most, of the rich money is old money, you know. So people who are in charge now, they were born into it. So really they didn't earn anything, they just were born into it and their parents worked for it. Now, more people are employed, I venture to say, by large corporations than small business in this country. So most of the jobs being given out to people like, you know, the common man like me, they're being given by the rich and not so much by the people who are just doing okay, have enough money for a business. So they see, the rich people have this skewed vision of upward mobility, where they think that they can have 30,000 managers, you know, in one state. They say, if you want more, get a promotion and rise. But it's really hard to do that when you live poor, because you can't really focus, because you're trying to take care of, you know, the kids, things like that. You're worrying about bills. Not only that, but as the profits rise in any given company, you'll see more money being lined in the pockets of the CEOs and the upper echelon of that company than will be given out to the employees who get like milk money and get a raise, you know, once a year.
Let's start with
Bringing back what she said, when she said that, you said the poor need to stop depending on the rich.
On the acceptance of the perspective of the rich.
All right, with that, you just have to like narrow it down. You can't leave the sentence so broad like that. Where I'm going with that is because half of this United States is created by foreigners, people who come from different countries who did not have the ability to have an education. So when they come down here, they're gonna go based on what they know. If they know by working in the factory to put food on the table for their family, that's exactly what they're gonna do. It's not so much as that's where they wanna be, but that's what they're gonna know. And then they're gonna push their kids to say, look, I came from nothing, and you have the opportunity to go to school and do what you have to do it. And then if the kids are looking around and like, wow, mommy and daddy came from a third world country, you know, we didn't have this, they didn't have that, they don't know how to read, and I have to read for them. They're gonna say, okay, let's go to school, let's make the best of it. So you can't necessarily say, oh, they are depending on rich people. It's just that sometimes the poor, they refuse to take money because they don't want to feel like they are, you know, taking handouts. If they have to work from 9 to 5, from one job to go to another job, to go to another job, to put clothes on their kids' back, they do it, and with my own 2 eyes, I've seen it done. So with that, you have to be careful how you say it.
Yeah, I was talking more in the sense of waiting on the acceptance of the rich to start taking initiative and.
But how are they gonna wait on the
working
acceptance of
together.
the rich if they're gonna go out
Because
to
people
find
are
a
still
job?
here dwelling on, oh, well, the rich won't give us the opportunity to.
No, you can't say that. You can't say that. You can't say people saying. You can't make assumption and assume when you don't know for a fact. Because the ones like, I'm pretty sure the ones who's on welfare, they're not on welfare because they have to be on welfare. There's a life situation, and with the money and the income that they have, you know, that's what they can provide for their kids, and they need more to provide for their kids, so they have to go and do certain things. So you can't say, oh, I'm waiting on the rich to do da 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 da. Because I know a lot of people who don't meet the expectation of mid class or low, the high class. They fall into the expectation of the low class, but they go out there and they work 4 jobs just to provide for their kids, and they refuse to take handout from people. So you can't say that, oh, they're waiting on the rich. No, even when somebody say, look, here, I'll pay for your rent, they say no. They're like, I'm gonna work hard and I'm gonna earn it. So you have to be real careful what you say.
And how would,
I think that goes also in the perspective of the rich. People are saying, it was just mentioned that nowadays people who are rich because their parents had money. And I don't believe that at all, because I know many people who have begun their own
When he
businesses
said
that
that,
are
he was
23
targeting,
years
and then
old.
when we say parents, he's like, sometimes people come from a family that has a business.
Sometimes, but
them
that's
are.
also
But
just
not
what I'm saying.
sometimes. Some parents, you know, like Bill Gates, he didn't give his kids nothing. If you don't believe me, research. He didn't give his kids nothing.
No,
He
I
preferred
believe
to, he donated all that to charity in different schools, and he told his kids, you have to earn it yourself. Look at the car that his son
That's
drives.
what I'm
His son
saying. That's
drives
the point
like
I'm
a-
making.
You know?
That it goes also for rich.
But before, that's not the point that she was making.
but let's think like the people who earn more money, maybe, well, and I'm glad that we have different perspectives. That's what makes us, that's what pushes our thinking to new directions, and that's why we're here, I think. And to be more engaged and proactive on the things that are happening. And when we talk about a person who earns a lot of money, all those taxes, maybe this person is not providing the other group in terms of, okay, I am giving you food or I am giving money for charities, but they pay a lot of taxes. And those taxes go to the people who are in welfare for whatever reason. But I think the point here is how sensitive the people who live in one community or the empathy of one community have with the other. And most important, what are the social effects of living in this situation? So, and you brought something very interesting if we want to think globally. You see, the United States is a big country, and we could say it's a first world country, and we have other countries that are going through a lot of things. Maybe we could consider ourselves the rich person or the rich body, and we have these other countries that are going through a lot of things. So I just want to open the conversation without any judgment from my part, but just want to see, how do you see the situation between the U.S. In connection to Venezuela? It's a sister country so close to the U.S. with so many, like we said, with these two communities, like Daniel Goleman said, one needs the other to provide whatever service. How do we see this situation?
Oh, I had a comment on the previous one.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Okay, sure. I just kind of want to jump back to something that was mentioned earlier, talking about the CEO pay. I basically think that's like a really good symbolic representation of what can happen, and also refers to the poor waiting on the rich or depending on the rich. The CEO scenario is a great instance of these people are all in the same company. Hypothetically, they have a shared mission and vision and stuff. But as was pointed out, the CEOs still disproportionately receive insane, hundreds of millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars salaries, particularly for these big financial institutions and big companies. Like, pretty clearly, they're not doing, you hear those things, it's like the average worker would have to, work for like 2,000 years or whatever to make the CEO's money. So the point there is that the CEO isn't doing way more work. They're sitting at the top of a giant pyramid of workers who are all actually doing the work of making them rich. Like what the poor need to realize, like vis-a-vis their own initiative regarding the rich, is that it's theirs. Mm-hmm. The wealth that's being generated by the people working the 4 jobs and doing all that work, it's theirs in a way that it's not. And when in these companies that disproportionately give it to management, I think the CEO is a good small instance of that.
What would you say about artists who get so much money and you go to those humongous mansions? Well,
Art seems more important because there are humanistic reasons for it. I think it actually improves people's lives in a way that financial products, a cheap whatever at Target is not existentially important.
Okay, any thoughts or would like to, Marie, I guess, Brittany?
No.
I'm not 100% on this. It could be just a crazy conspiracy theory that I've conjured up in my mind for a spare moment. There's so many people in this country that are unemployed right now, and there's a lot of things that go out of their way, such as socialized programs that try to fix that, but not as much as it should be focused on. Most of the money is going toward other things that this country already has, like war and weapons and things like that. But if, let's say for a second, every single person had a job, then when the workers, like he said, took their own initiative and petitioned their CEO and their bosses for higher wages, it would be tougher to fire those people and just hire other people because those people have a job. So it's kind of like, you have to beg the question, is there a conscious effort to keep people unemployed, to keep a pool of potential employees so you can just dump your workforce you have now and hire a new one if these people get too wanting of more money?
So what happens when we, just to piggyback on what you said, what happens when the gap is so big? What is going to happen with the people from one neighborhood and the other neighborhood?
Well, what happens when the gap is that big is a hyper powerful corporation will then, your example is pertinent where they can fire all their workers and replace them. They do way worse. They hire lobbyists to manipulate the legal system to, weaken the ability of their employees to collectively bargain. As soon as there's this one group with an insane amount of money and power, they will abuse it to protect it. And firing their workforce is one recourse, but their manipulation of the political system is another.
A good example is Venezuela in itself. The economic standing there, which has been for years now, the poor are exceptionally poor and the rich are exceptionally rich. We've seen the progress of the Venezuelans moving to Miami and moving into Doral for the majority, and they're paying cash for their houses. Okay, this is happening. And so many of the people in Venezuela, you can't even wear jewelry, you can't wear a watch, you can't wear earrings because somebody will run up to you and cut off your ear for your earring. So that's the divide between the rich and the poor in the global perspective. And then have people work together in that type of
Society, that society though created it. When we decided to put such a huge barrier of you are nothing, I have so much, but yet we are not finding what's the word I'm finding? Common ground, or a program where we can help find a way to make that division so much smaller. You're creating that problem.
Yeah.
When you have such money in that nature, people come to the point where I don't have it, I'm about to steal it.
Yeah,
because I'm gonna eat. So if you don't want that to be an issue, then you need to find a way to make it where we can close
It can't all be
And what's
blamed.
worse is that the government is on the side of the rich, not on the side of the poor over there. So there will be no bridge because no one's helping them.
It cannot be blamed on the people that have the money though, because there are people that don't have the money and they're not willing to work for it the way that other people are. Other people sacrifice blood, sweat, and tears, and other people don't. So you can't always blame it on this one has money, let me go ahead and take it, because how are you going to feel empathy for people like that? You can't, because there's people that won't work for it. They won't sacrifice their time and their energy the way other people will. So there is a common ground, but then, like you said, when the gap is so big, it's because they chose it to be that way. And people do fall into where they're supposed to be born. I guess you have money, you're born into money. You weren't. But the choice at the end of the day is yours. That's the way I see it.
What I understand from what you said is that the problem is not that the person has the money, but we are aware that some people have a lot of money and a lot of people don't have the money. But the biggest problem is the problem that we will start having social problems. And what she just mentioned, Venezuela, how it's becoming unsafe. Or the image that I shared here with you before, that's in Sao Paulo, Brazil. And the same thing happens, a lot of people with a lot of money and a lot of people with less money. But all of this, as you said, it affects all of us. Like if you are in Venezuela, you cannot go out because someone will break into your house, you can get killed, when one of your kids can be kidnapped. So who would like to be like that? But we are also global here, and everything that happens in Venezuela, in China, anywhere, everything affects us in a certain way. Maybe in time it will be delayed, but those things affect us. I guess you have something to say.
Yeah, back on the issue of some people not, being willing to work. First of all, I think that's an exaggerated problem and an instrument of, people want to hang on to what they've got. But you kind of have to make this decision as a society and say, I'm trying to build a society here. I'm not about who is trying to work and who can succeed and figuring out who's better. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm building my little Sims world. What I'm trying to do is give people the benefit of the doubt that just like from the jump, entering my society at birth, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt that they are like worth the same as me and are going to do work as much as me. Like you just make those assumptions because human beings are not that different. Like you just have to make that assumption when you're building a giant group where you care about the well-being of everyone in it. You just ignore the people who are going to be like hangers-on or whatever or benefit off the system. It's okay. It's not going to be that big a problem. Human beings care about being alive and having a lot of stuff. Like, for the most part, you can trust that. It's been working in terms of people still trying to do it. Like, there's not some parallel society out there of like loafers who have decided like, hey, let's start some country in the middle of Utah or something where we're gonna all not work. That's not human beings. It's not what they do. It's not what they're about. And particularly not in the context of 2014, where you like need money to live. So in my Sims world, I'll give people the benefit of the doubt, assume that they will work to their abilities. It's like, you just have to make that assumption. Because who cares who works for everybody's working hard. Like there aren't like the counter check of like, every person bleeding off the welfare system gets like a real kick in the behind from like anybody who knows them, who knows. They're not this simultaneous check going through all the rich people to make sure it's earned. It just isn't. It's not important. These loafers are fake problems. They don't exist.
And something that you just mentioned, the values that people have, and the connection to something that somebody here says, well, the values that people have in terms of having a lot of things. There's a quote, I don't remember who, it's a Latin American artist who said that rich is not the one who has more, but the one who needs less. And sometimes, I don't know how are you giving a concept of who is rich, and in terms of being engaged. I think it's what you said, starting from the idea that you just mentioned, empathy, creating empathy from both sides, because both sides will be affected. One side because they are less fortunate, and the other side because, well, they are locked into their big mansions.
Okay, I want to say two things about what he was just saying. Well, one thing about what he was just saying. I feel as though, like, okay, first of all, to go back to what we said before he began speaking, I feel like that for people who are rich or wealthy or who just have money, that don't have to struggle or anything like that, I just feel like when they have this money, okay, for example, you can be a person that's rich and quiet about it. You have people who you said about the valuable things and exclusive things and who wants that and buy all these things, and then she said something about in Venezuela, how they're cutting off ears because of the diamond in your ear or whatever. And I just feel as though, like, if you're in that situation and if you're put in that and that's where you're from or that's where you live, why would you step outside with the diamond earring on your ear anyways? If you know that with this earring on, that's a possibility that may happen, why even wear it? And I mean, you do want to wear it because it's yours, but why wear it around those people or in that environment? And I feel as though like it's no fun. Nowadays, when you have money, it's no fun of having the money because you can't show it off. You can't let people know, I mean, you want to let people know that this is what I have and I have this and this much and I can buy this and buy that if I want to. You like to boast about it. You like to brag and show it off. And that's when you get taken. I feel as though if I had me, or if I was rich and I had money, I would be quiet about it. You don't have to know that you don't have to know me. I have money, but you don't have to know that I have money. You understand? And then when he was saying about like, his Sims world or something, it was like, I mean, rich people hang around rich people. Poor people are mostly around poor people. I mean, that's just what it is. And I just feel like, if I'm rich and she's rich, it's no giving somebody the benefit of the doubt. That's just how I look at it, and that's just what I think. And I just feel as though you have some people, and I could be wrong because I'm not rich, so I don't really know for sure. But I just feel like not everyone will give somebody the benefit of the doubt, when they're in that situation. If me and her have money and she doesn't, and we're doing such a good job together, why am I going to assume or give her the benefit of doubt that maybe bringing her in can benefit what me and her have going on, and not choose her who do have money? Like I don't feel like that's what's up. Like that's what's going to happen. So.
Coming back to like what you were saying about if you have something, you're gonna wear it like in front of people that don't. Well, that just kind of shows that you've never been to a third world country where things like this happen. Me, like personally, I come from a third world country, so I know like I don't go around like a bad neighborhood wearing diamond earrings because I'm rich. Obviously, why would I be there in the first place? It's just a matter of you moving in their surroundings and people coming up to you and taking you.
About being in a third world country, no, I have never been, and I'm so sorry for not being
No,
there.
I'm not. There's nothing wrong with that.
Okay, but it doesn't have to be a third world country. I'm from Pompano Beach, Florida, Broward County, and that's a hood. That's considered a hood. It's considered a poor neighborhood. And then you have Coral Springs with people who have money. Why would I, if I'm living in Coral Springs and I have a diamond earring in my ear, and you go in Kaya City, which is a hood, people are going to rob you right there in the blink of an eye. Gun to your head. It doesn't matter if it's third world country or not.
Well, I think this is different types of experiences that also makes us think that here within our own country, there are many places where people are struggling in the same city. But I think the message that she's giving,
anywhere. It's a lot of similarities and differences that people don't understand that we have so much in common. Rich have so much in common with poor and vice versa, and they don't even know it. So you don't have to be in a third world country to say, oh, if I have this and I walk outside, I might not have to go there. Like I said, I'm from, even in Miami, it's certain neighborhoods and certain areas, it doesn't have, that's what I'm just trying to make my point where, that it doesn't have to be Venezuela or Sudan or Somalia or whatever,
You're right, and thank you for bringing this because that makes us realize things that are happening locally. But I think the point that she was getting is that this becomes more generalized, and everywhere you are not safe. Everywhere. I also come from a developing country, and when I go home, I just take everything. It's because that becomes a common pattern. So we don't want to get into that. And I think it's time to start wrapping up our thoughts. So if we could start concluding our discussion, which you could bring to it's to be continued, and I invite you to continue talking this in your classes or with other students or professors. The idea is that we are aware that there is inequity. It's inequity worldwide. It's also inequity locally, and Brittany just mentioned, it's just in the neighborhood, you could find a lot of inequity. We see things from different perspectives. But it's the perspective of the person who has money, or some people think it's because they were born with that, other people think it's because they earned to get that, or they found they're like this beautiful movie that it's In Pursuit of Happiness, a very poor man who fight really hard to become a millionaire, So what happened to that millionaire?
He didn't fight to become a millionaire, he just fight to.
What is that millionaire doing with the other group that he lived, the poverty that the other people live? And that's seeing things from perspective. Maybe the question for all of us is from the different places where we are, how are we going to be engaged? How can we help others? How can we be more proactive, knowing that maybe I'm not rich, but what about how can I help other people from being a teacher or having a small business? How can I be more empathetic?
You can do that by raising the top marginal rate to 99%. Like, no one needs to make more than $30 million in a year. Cap it, 99% on $1,031,000. Like, probably makes enough money.
Just to finish, something that a message that comes to my heart is that something that never helps is when these two groups start hating each other. So these people cannot hate these people, and these people cannot ignore these other people, because that type of things create even a bigger gap, even more than the physical and the material that we have.
No, I was just gonna say, like, through education, like basically everything we talk about in class, I think we do, like what we're talking about today in class, we do need to teach like our children empathy, and they need to be aware of these things. Like this needs to start like as young as possible to raise awareness and to make a difference, because us having this conversation, yeah, it's great, but we need to also like teach our young children that they can make a difference and expose them to this type of problems and these global issues. Therefore, they can like follow our footsteps in making a difference. Like we can sit and talk about these conversations, which is great because we're making a difference in each other. Like I'm learning a lot of things I didn't know, but we really need to like action, like do something rather than just talking about it to really make a difference. So I mean, this conversation is great, but we need to like do something to make a change.
So that's the homework that all of you have from the different fields that you are working. How are we going to do? What are we planning to do to make our world different? And we just have a good, as well sharing from the early childhood folks. Thank you, everybody.